Hey Manipal, how's it going? I'm Rohit, a 2015 graduate and a former GDG Manipal manager. And today I'm here with you to share some of my experiences and a few tidbits regarding dev and design and help you all get started with your first web app. So I've organized and participated in quite a few hackathons. And just 1 year ago, I was in this Hack for Charity by Cerner Healthcare and First Hand Foundation. Our aim was to create a Mer app for any healthcare domain, but the main challenge was it had to be used in remote location like a village clinic or a hospital. Now this presented us with a couple of challenges. First was accessibility. So remote locations will usually not have steady internet access. And what this meant for our app was it had to function as a standalone application working completely offline, but still have the capability to sync to the database whenever internet is available. And another challenge that was presented to us was that it had to run on every platform without getting stuck on any dependency. And a doctor might have an iPhone, but other clinicians will usually carry an Android or Windows phone. Or maybe they just might be using the hospital desktop. So this presented us with a cross-platform challenge. And 24 hours is a really short duration to build a working prototype with something of this scale. So the smartest approach to go with this problem was to build a web app. And that is exactly what I did. The app that I made was a simple save and search software for medical records and patient health information, and the stack comprised of HTML, CSS and JavaScript on the front end along with AngularJS to create all the views, and a Firebase database and use of web storage as well. And since it was a web app, I used the Ionic framework to port it to other platforms. Now the lifesaver here was Firebase because it comes baked in with features like authentication, offline sync capabilities, which is what I was mainly looking for, and an easy to work with NoSQL JSON database. And so the Ionic framework is an SDK that allows you to package your web app into any native application for iOS or Android. You could use something like Cordova or PhoneGap for the same. They're actually the same thing. And with the help of web storage and like in-browser storage, you can make data persistent so that even when a user will close the app completely, the data will still be there in the phone and it will sync next time you go online. So, and all this was running on a front end with HTML, CSS and JavaScript, and the UI was quickly built with Twitter's Bootstrap framework, and AngularJS was used to create our views and the logical functioning, which allowed really fast search and filtering of the data using Angular filters on the Firebase database. So now this app did not require any backend processing, but that is usually where your Node.js part will come in, or something like a mean stack. But this app solved our problem without having a dedicated backend other than the Firebase database. And I actually tied in first place with another team, and they had a similar stack, but for their database they used something called CouchDB and PouchDB, which is like two different databases from the same company, but they combine and do the same thing that Firebase can do on its own. Another hack experience that I would like to share was at the Ola Cabs hack, and this was around more than a year ago. So when you meet professional app builders, you will find out that they're creating apps and it's not about showcasing their coding skills, but instead it's about solving the problem at hand and creating really fast and robust solutions. And a lot of developers use things like starter kits or project seeds to quickly get started. Also, depending on your resource constraint, consider using things like a UI framework, something like Bootstrap or Foundation, and leverage the power of APIs. If you don't know what APIs are, just do a simple YouTube search or a Google search and learn about them. Because a lot of features that you might want to build, they might already exist. So instead of reinventing the wheel. Just try to find its API. It will save you a lot of time and make your apps really powerful. So the winners at this Ola Cabs hack, they built an app where they used the Google Maps API and the weather API. And what they did was they would predict the traffic conditions depending on the weather and calculate the best possible route for your cab using traveling salesperson algorithm on all the possible routes. Now you don't have to build something so complicated. You can focus on a niche group or a problem of your interest. Like the second winners at that hackathon were a team that built an app around the idea of delivering leftover food from hotels or restaurants to places like orphanages, old age homes, or any NGO that is in need of food. If you're new to web development, an important thing to start your project with is to have a good setup and try to automate things. So before you begin coding your project, it would be a good idea to just set up a Git repository and sync everything to GitHub at every stage so that you don't lose your code later. And also try to use some sort of build system like Grunt or Gulp, and it will take care of things like minifying your CSS and JS code, compiling your Sass or less, and linting, and a lot more. Now, if all that sounds like Latin and Greek to you, don't worry. Now is your chance to actually learn things like templating engines, CSS preprocessors, node package managers, CDNs, Docker containers, and what all these features are in the world of web development. And they can make you really productive and efficient in building your apps. And this is exactly what DevFest is all about. It's like a starting point where you come to know and learn about new technologies, and you should take those ideas back with you and build something better out of it. Back in 2014, when I organized the DevFest in Manipal, it was the Android Wear season. So all the workshops were focused on Android, and it was followed by a hackathon focused on making apps to leverage the features of Android Wear. And we even conducted a design sprint to explore user personas and use cases for Android Wear. And speaking of design, now I know all of you are engineers or would-be engineers, but that does not mean you cannot design your apps. Design is not just about making the apps look good, it's more about solving problems in the best way possible. So think about your users. Who are they? Why would they use your app? How will it make their life better? And how can your app delight them and they would want to use it in every day of their life? So building around those questions and questions like these are what creates great user experiences. So if you want to learn about design thinking, you can try this course on Udacity. And to learn more about the design process and how to follow a procedure, just go to Medium and do a search for what is design and what are design processes, and it will lead you to some great articles. And since we are working on Google technologies and Android, you might want to check out the material design guidelines. They are very well articulated, and if you find them intimidating, like I know many of you will, even I did, so just go to the YouTube channel for Google Design and check out a few videos like this one.
Inside this device, there is actually a little bit of space. And so we thought, well, let's try and take advantage of that and create a meaningful structure that goes underneath it, almost like the skeleton filling out this body from the inside out.
Material design early on was almost like we were going out and trying experiments.
Yeah, it was totally an experiment.
Everyone kind of sat next to each other in a room, working on all the different aspects and components together.
Kind of riffing off of each other. It's one thing to play by yourself, it's another thing to play in a group where you're improvising real time.
I think a lot of us are used to working more practically. This was the first time where we were being pushed and told, don't worry about that, let's just see what happens now.
That looked fun, right? Now, it will be obviously tougher to code these on the web, but you can use something like the Material Design Lite library by Google or the Material UI React components. And all these are already prepared to be used directly in your web app or website. And especially Material Design Lite, it's like Bootstrap but with material design and not the Twitter style. And if you're already building a native Android app, then developer notes are already there on the Google developer site and Android dev site. And so you can see the specifications and how to implement that. So go ahead and build your app. It can be a website or a web app running on Node.js with a Google App Engine working in the background. You can also use a Docker container using Google Cloud's container engine. And be sure to use the features of Firebase. It has a lot of powerful features that you can intuitively use in your app. Whatever it may be, just remember to have fun. Talk to the developers around you, interact with them, interact with all the people conducting the sessions and the workshops. And just remember that it's a learning experience for you and you should take something with you home that you can build off in the future. Good luck.